Hello, and welcome to Pittsburgh City Council's Standing Committees meeting for Wednesday, March 20th, 2019. My name is Kim Clark Baskin, and I'm your Deputy City Clerk. With us today, we have our sign language interpreter, John Blasco. The following is a list of legislation to be discussed and up for preliminary approval by Pittsburgh City Council. The Finance and Law Committee, Reverend Burgess is the chair. Bill number 1338, ordinance amending, supplementing, and correcting the Pittsburgh Code at Title II, Fiscal, Article 1, Administrative, Chapter 219, Operating Budget, so as to add contract and bid information requirements to fiscal impact statements and to further correct numbering and formatting. This bill is sponsored by Councilwoman Teresa Kell Smith and co-sponsored by Councilwoman Erica Strasburger, Deb Gross, and Darlene Harris. Bill number 1468, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Timothy Arnold in an amount not to exceed $5,400 in full and final settlement of a police-related matter. Bill number 1469, resolution authorizing the mayor and the city solicitor to enter into a professional services agreement with Fox Rothschild LLP of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the amount not to exceed $110,000 for professional consulting and legal services in relation to False Claims Act. Bill number 1470, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Jane D. Simone, Esquire, in the amount of $4,223.17 for arbitration services rendered in connection with grievance 1701 labor matters and charging the same. Bill number 1471, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Robert A. Creo in the amount of $4,500 for arbitration services rendered in connection with two labor matters. Bill number 1472, resolution authorizing, pursuant to Chapter 210, acceptance of gifts to the city, of the City Code, the mayor and the director of the Department of Public Safety to accept a donation from the Pittsburgh Penguins Foundation in the amount of $156,420 to be deposited into the Public Safety Support Trust Fund. Bill number 1473, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Finance to submit a Keystone Recreation Park and Conservation Fund grant application to the Pennsylvania Office of Commonwealth Libraries for the renovation of Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh's Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped. Public Safety Services Committee, Mr. Lavelle is the chair. Bill number 2018-1218, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code, Title VI, Conduct, Article 1, Regulated Actions and Rights, by repealing the existing language of Chapter 607, Firearms, Ammunition, and Other Weapons in its entirety, and replacing it with the new Chapter 607, General Firearm Conduct, to update existing laws to meet the public safety needs of residents. Bill number 1219, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code of Ordinances, Title VI, Conduct, Article 1, Regulated Actions and Rights, by adding Chapter 16, Ban on Specified Firearm Accessories, Ammunition, and Modifications, to place a prohibition on certain firearm accessories, ammunition, and modifications. Bill number 1220, an ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code, Title VI, Conduct, Article 1, Regulated Rights and Actions, by adding Chapter 603, Extreme Risk Protection Order, to provide for appropriate injunctive actions for the preservation of public safety in extreme circumstances. Public Works Committee, Mrs. Kell Smith is Chair, Bill Number 1475. Resolution providing for an agreement to set forth city financial obligations and responsibilities with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for the inclusion of certain city component in PennDOT's West Carson Street Signal Upgrade Project, cost not to exceed $9,050. Bill Number 1476. Resolution accepting the dedication of a portion of Blair Street and Hazelwood Avenue in the SP10 Hazelwood Green Specially Planned District in the 4th and 15th Wards, 5th Council District. This bill is sponsored by Councilman Corey O'Connor. Human Resources Committee, Mrs. Harris is the Chair, Bill Number 1474. Resolution authorizing the Mayor and the Director of the Department of Human Resources and Civil Service to enter into a professional services agreement and/or contract with NeoGov for the upgrade and continual maintenance of software for the HR workforce management, applicant tracking, and civil service testing, cost not to exceed $81,096.77. That concludes the reading of the legislation up for preliminary approval. Thank you and have a great day.
Good morning and welcome to Pittsburgh City Council Standing Committee meeting for Wednesday, March 20th, 2019. Our first order of business is public comment. Members of the public who want to address City Council, please come forward. You'll be giving 3 minutes. The green light means your time has begun. The yellow light means your 1 minute to summarize. The red light means your time has expired. Please relinquish the podium. I would like to take this time to remind everyone the rules of council state that comment should be limited to the matters of concern, official action, or deliberation which are or may be before council. Profanity will not be permitted, and order will be maintained at all times. And that comment is also limited to people who are residents of the city. That's why we ask you to start off with your name and either your address or the location of the community from which you are from. First speaker, please.
My name's Harry Liller, 438 Ruxton Street in the Mount Washington section of Pittsburgh. I am presenting an Allegheny County Citizens Police Review Board proposal that I will have the Citizens Police Review Board Executive Director bring it up at the next county council meeting next month, because the evil county council president had 4 deputies on me this month. The media laughed at me. They stayed on the floor below. This is a very corrupt city. Here's my proposal. The Pennsylvania State Attorney General has jurisdiction over all local police departments throughout the Commonwealth. The Allegheny County District Attorney has jurisdiction over all local police departments throughout the county. The Allegheny County Sheriff has jurisdiction over all local police departments throughout the county. They each have 1 representative on the board, along with 3 citizens and 1 citizen chairman. A 12-member volunteer advisory committee with 8 citizen community members with 4 law enforcement appointees. This committee gets to be involved and makes decisions. The already established Pittsburgh Citizens Police Review Board will expand with investigations and subpoena powers, and the new county board will be able to prosecute any criminal activity by law enforcement. The Pittsburgh Police will be under the new county board. Who am I? Right here. The Tribune Review gives me the respect that I made City Councilman Alan Hertzberg change his position to create the Civilian Police Review Board. And what I told him, and the media just shuts off their cameras, was Hertzberg used to be a lawyer who defended citizens of Pittsburgh against police brutality. So here he was, one of us at one time. But then when he became a politician, Him and 4 other racist white politicians made sure we couldn't have the board. They wouldn't let us put it on the ballot. We had to get signatures. And this is what I'm going to make the county council know, that they're going to have it on the ballot when they vote against it. Because you see, all the white politicians and all the white media hate my guts for creating the Pittsburgh Civilian Police Review Board. The Pittsburgh police brutalized my sister, beat her in the face with a blackjack, gave her death threats. And during the ACLU police brutality lawsuit, they went to Social Security, the police did, and Social Security threatened my sister saying, if you win your lawsuit, you lose your health care. Somehow the media and the police and the politicians never tell the public the truth. I always tell the truth. I'll be here next week again. And here's my proposal.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
My name is Les Ludwig. I live at 6589 Rosemore Street in Squirrel Hill. Last week I spoke to you about the effect of dropping a stone into water and you get ripples. Those ripples represent, I hope, contact by people of authority who would listen to reason rather than to what we're being fed by presidential candidates. All of them. They're all doing the same thing. They're feeding us what we would like to have, not what we can afford to have. So therefore, they'll get into office, and what will happen? Nothing. You'll be told there isn't enough money to fight addiction, housing, education, etc. We've heard it for years. The money is already there in the system because both parties, including your own, are turning around and looking for votes. So what do? You give away tax receipts. The president gave another million. So we're now at 26 million, 26,000. If you make 26,000 or less, you don't pay any income tax. What does that add up to that has an effect on all of you in this room? It's called $374 trillion per year, not per 10 years, 20 years, per year. Take that money, collect it as a sales tax, and turn around and put it back to where it's needed. Housing, education, and pick those people up who have no way of reaching a better level. Pick them up by educating them, by giving them a potential to take a job that's meaningful. And God only knows, we've got 300,000 who don't have a job, but also don't have a future. So therefore, we'll give them a future. We'll make them say, I'm going to go, I'm going to get educated, I'm going to take a course that will take me into employment. This way, we just don't collect the money. And everything is tied back to, all the promises are tied back to a lack of money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
My name is Yvonne F. Brown. I live in the Hill District. And I am so saddened today when I listen to the news and how they made that area where that boy was killed so bad of an area. I thought Woodland Hills, I thought it was mostly white. I'm wrong. You know why I'm wrong? I read in the paper, Woodland Hills School, that they were putting up papers. In the papers, they was putting wood chips, paint chips falling from the ceiling. You know that's lead? You remember that, Miss Smith? Wasn't that in our school? Wasn't it lead? Anytime paint chips, that means it hasn't been painted in years. So that's a poor school district. Yes, it is, and you know it. And Mr. Herschel, I have much respect for you, but yesterday, like I told you, it was uncalled for. All that. When 5 cops was with Johnny Gambage, we didn't have all that. The mother, I want you to understand, the reason why I'm upset is because the mother said, do not protest. Because I would have been near protesting. They let my son die. But she said don't protest. There's nobody down there. And you got all these cops, hundreds of cops walking around sitting. They need to be up in the neighborhood because you know what? It'd be a good time to say, Rob, do whatever, because they're down here sitting around, looking, talking, sitting, not doing their job. We don't need them down here. I say that because I picketed the whole year for Johnny Gambage. We picketed when the 3 murderous cops came out. And the black men were there, and they started murmuring, murderers, murderers, murderers. And those cops ran like dogs. They didn't threaten them. They just called them murderers for what they were. Now, I want you to understand, Mr. Herschel, you did the same thing that the last chief did. When he said Thanksgiving, all of the black children were coming down to kill. He spent 2 or 3 millions to put them cops down there for what? You must understand you need to talk to the people, not your police, because a lot of them don't hate, they hate us. To his mother, I give you praise and honor for saying don't picket, because if it was my son, I'd say come down. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. Anytime we lose a child.
Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please. Seeing no other speakers, we will now go into the roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Coghill. Here. Mrs. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Kraus.
Here.
Mr. Lavelle.
Here.
Mr. O'Connor.
Here.
Mrs. Cale Smith.
Here.
Mrs. Strasburger.
Here.
Mr. Burgess, President.
Here.
8 members present.
Thank you very much. That takes us to our first committee of the day, which is the Finance and Law Committee, of which I am the chair. I will go out of order. On page 2, if you would read Bill 2019-1472.
Bill 1472, a resolution authorizing pursuant to Chapter 210 of the City Code, the mayor and the director of the Department of Public Safety to accept a donation from the Pittsburgh Penguins Foundation of $156,420 to be deposited into the Public Safety Support Trust Fund.
I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any conversation? Ms. Harris?
What number are you on?
I am on 1472, which may, or I'm not sure, your agenda has different page
Right.
numbers, so it is the,
I've got it.
you got it? Do you want to have a conversation about it? Mr. Hesrich is here to talk about it. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Again, thank you very much. That takes us to the top of the agenda. We have a supplemental page, or we'll go down in order. We'll go in order. Supplemental paper, if you would please read the first paper.
Bill number 1489, resolution amending Resolution 310 of 2018 to provide additional information regarding authorized lease between the City of Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Hispanic Development Corporation for space in 1555 Broadway Avenue.
Need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Need a second. Any conversation? Mr. Coghill.
I just wanted to thank the mayor's office and State Senator Fontana. It's been a long time coming to try to fill this space. This is, you know, the Health and Wellness Center that we put a lot of money into, and now it's going to be filled. It's going to bring 15, 20 people there on a daily basis, which we need the foot traffic there. So I just wanted to really thank the administration for making this happen. It was kind of out of the norm as to what the URA does, and you know, they found a way to do it, and we're looking forward to it.
Ms. Harris.
No, he just answered my question.
Ms. Smith.
I want to thank or congratulate Councilman Coghill because he is really a strong advocate for his community, and you're seeing a lot of things done, and especially in an area where we haven't seen a lot. in the Beachview area. So thank you for your work on this as well.
Any other conversation? Seeing no conversation, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill number 1490, resolution authorizing the mayor through the Bureau of Neighborhood Empowerment to execute relevant agreements to implement the creation of financial empowerment centers within the city of Pittsburgh and further providing for agreements and expenditures not to exceed $30,000 for this stated purpose.
Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Need a
Second.
second. Conversation.
Yeah, I want to thank Henry Pyatt from the mayor's office for all his work on this. He's made sure that every part of the city is covered, and this is something that's really going to be beneficial, I believe, to all of our residents. I want to thank you for your work.
Any other conversation you want Henry table? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Positive recommendation. Thank you, Henry. Next bill, please.
Bill number 1438, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of William J. Miller, Jr., in an amount not to exceed $21,720.51 for arbitration services rendered in connection with the City of Pittsburgh and FOP Act 111 Interest Arbitration Award.
Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Need a second. Any conversation? Ms. Harris?
Yes, I'd like somebody from legal to come up and talk about this.
We can have requests from someone from the law department to come forward. We will keep going.
And on the next one. Thank you.
And on the
Somebody
next.
from law should be here all the time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they should.
The executive sessions were held on the 18th.
Yes, but they should still be here.
Yeah, and I called on there 3 times.
So we will request someone from the law office to come to discuss these bills. While we're waiting, I won't open the second bill. We'll just simply move on. If on the next 4 bills can be read together, that's 1468, 69, 70, and 71.
Bill number 1468, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Timothy Arnold in an amount not to exceed $5,400 in full and final settlement of a police-related matter. Bill number 1469, resolution authorizing the mayor and the city solicitor to enter into a professional services agreement with Fox Rothschild LLP in an amount not to exceed $110,000 for professional consulting and legal services in relation to False Claims Act litigation. Bill number 1470, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Jane D. Simone Esquire in an amount not to exceed $4,223.17 for arbitration services rendered in connection with grievance 1701 labor matters and charging the same. And Bill number 1471, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Robert A. Creo in the amount of $4,500 for arbitration services rendered in connection with labor matters and charging the same.
I need a motion to hold for executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. They are held. Next bill would be 1473.
Bill number 1473, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Finance to submit a Keystone Recreation, Park and Conservation Fund grant application to the Pennsylvania Office of Commonwealth Libraries for the renovation of Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh's Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped.
Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Need a
Second.
Any conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. It takes us to the invoices.
Thanks, Carlin.
The invoices are on the table. I need a motion for the invoices.
Motion to
Is
approve.
there a second? Any conversation about the invoices? No conversation about the invoices. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Ms. Harris?
Yeah, Rev, I just want to state that that should go to John Harris, not Darlene Harris,
I'm sorry, where are you, Councilwoman?
on the very first one.
You never, so let's go back to the amendments and back to the
Like that
invoices.
amended from
All right, so-
Darlene to John.
So we are going to, by common consent, if you do not mind, we're simply going to reconsider the invoices. You need a technical amendment. Ms. Harris has made an amendment that instead of being Darlene Harris, on the first invoice, it is changed to John Harris. Is there a second?
Oh, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. We have the technical amendment changed. I do not think we need to go back and consider the motion to approve because it's just a technical amendment. Are we all good with that?
Yep.
If good, there are no interdepartmental transfer. There are P cards. The P cards are on the table. Need a motion for the P cards.
Motion to approve.
Need a second.
Second.
Any conversation about the P card, Ms. Harris?
I'm just glad to see that somebody else uses Chewy.com. Just just a friendly joke.
What's
What'd you say?
Chewy.com for the canines.
It's a pet food company.
Oh, yeah, my pets are my children, so I don't.
Well, that's where
The children are your
we get it.
My children, whatever. Yeah.
Just wanted to put that little plug in.
So, another bigger, maybe have to get a cat or something. All right, all those in favor of the P card signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. I think someone did, we did motion for the P card approval, didn't we? I thought so, okay. That takes us to the Public Safety Services Committee, of which Mr. Lavelle is the chair. We have a number of papers. I think we'll read them all together.
Read the first one by itself.
You want to pass that through?
We're going to hold it for 1 week.
All right, so if you would read the first one, and we'll hold for 1 week.
Bill number 2018-1196, resolution establishing the Stop the Violence Initiative to reduce both police officer-related violence and proximity-related violence in the city of Pittsburgh.
All right, is there a motion to?
Motion to hold for 1 week.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. Before we get into the, those next bills, we're going to go back to Law and Finance Committee. I saw Wendy walk in, and so to expedite her use of time, we'll go back to Bill 1438, which is on the table, and I believe Ms. Harris has the floor.
Hi, Wendy. Good morning.
Good morning. Could you state your name and your title?
Wendy Kobe, Associate City Solicitor.
Okay, Wendy, on 1438 and 1439, I was unable to be there at the time, but I did call within like 5 minutes. They said that Kelly left. So I called 3 times down there, and I says, well, wouldn't you know? And they said, no, you didn't know anything about it. So I called 3 times. Can you tell me what it's about?
So the warrants for payment of Campbell Durant and for William Miller, the arbitrator?
Yeah, that one, and 1438, 1439.
38, it's just 38, 39. We're on 38 now.
Okay. The City of Pittsburgh is in interest arbitration with the Fraternal Order of Police for their next labor contract because the union was not able to come to an agreement with the city.
Okay.
And William Miller is not the neutral for this. This must be an old one. And Campbell Durant is representing the city in interest arbitration, which has been happening last month and will continue next month.
Well, what's a 21-7-20?
William Miller had been the neutral arbitrator for the interest arbitration that the union engaged us in for the labor contract for the time period of 2015 to 2019.
So he was the neutral arbitrator.
He was the neutral,
Okay,
and
that's
that
all I need
litigation.
to know on that one.
The reason why you're getting this invoice now is because that litigation was quite contentious.
Okay.
They had many sessions.
And it wasn't open to the public like most of them were last time.
Initially, when they had this hearing in 2015, the union wanted it to be open to the public. There were subsequent executive sessions. There was a subsequent session about integrating a supplemental award, and I don't believe anybody asked that it be open to the public.
Okay. Because I know they did have negotiations upstairs where they were open.
Negotiations, ma'am, are never open.
Well, they were a couple years ago.
That was interest arbitration, and that was at the request of the union.
Okay. Okay, so 1439.
That would be the invoice for Campbell Durant Services. They handle the interest arbitration for the city, along with my colleague Kelly Mystic. One of the partners there is the presenter, and the other partner who is working with the city is the city's partisan arbitrator.
Okay. And are we still using, I can't think of the name, something Rooney?
I don't believe we've used their services for labor for several years.
Okay. So we're solely using Campbell, Durant, and Beatty now.
That's my understanding.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're on bill now 1438. That's what's on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. If you read bill 1439, please.
Bill number 1439, resolution amending resolution number 738, authorizing the mayor and the city solicitor to enter into a professional services agreement with Campbell, Durant, Beatty, and Palumbo and Miller for professional legal services and expert advice regarding labor matters by increasing the total cost from $70,000 to $220,000.
I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. I need a conversation starting Mrs. Harris.
I just have one other question. You don't have to answer it now. Just get me the information on what they're charging us by the hour.
I'd be happy to provide that, but in categorical terms, it's standard market rate.
Okay, well, could you let me know what that is now?
It's approximately $200 an hour.
Okay. And that's what we're paying for all outside attorneys.
I don't know if that's what all outside attorneys for all matters charge the city, but certainly for public labor with outside lawyers, it's always been about that amount of money per hour.
Okay. So market rates from what to what?
I recall several years ago, the market rate, the rate that the city was paying the attorneys from Buchanan Ingersoll was $165 an hour. There had been another outside law firm that assisted the city in 2009 with some contract negotiations, and I believe that was $225 an hour. And the last time I looked at invoices from Campbell Durant, I recall that the partner rate was $195 per hour. So it's always been at about $200 an hour.
Okay, thank you.
Any other conversation? I'm in the wrong business. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. All right, positive recommendation. Wendy, thank you very much. And Wendy, you know I am a big fan of yours. Thank you very much for your service. All right, that exhausts the Finance and Law. It takes us back to the Public Safety Services Committee, of where Mr. Lavelle is the chair. We have three more papers. Do you want them open together?
Yes.
All right, if you would please read Bill 1218, 1219, 1220.
Bill number 1218, an ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code of Ordinances at Title VI, Conduct, Article 1, Regulated Actions and Rights by repealing the existing language of Chapter 607, Firearms, Ammunition, and Other Weapons in its entirety and replacing it with a new Chapter 607, General Firearm Conduct, to update existing laws to meet the public safety needs of the residents. Bill number 1219, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code of Ordinances at Title VI, Conduct, Article 1, Regulated Actions and Rights by adding Chapter 610, Ban on Specified Firearm Accessories, Ammunition, and Modifications, to place a prohibition on certain firearm accessories, ammunition, and modifications. And Bill number 1220, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code of Ordinances at Title VI, Conduct, Article 1, Regulated Actions and Rights by adding Chapter 603, Extreme Risk Protection Orders, to provide for appropriate injunctive actions for the preservation of public safety in extreme circumstances.
Need a motion, Mr. Lavelle?
Motion to approve.
Need a second. Mr. Lavelle?
I'm going to defer to Councilwoman Strasburger.
Thank you. So Councilman O'Connor and I have been working with our staff over the last several months and are presenting amendments to these three bills today, but are not expecting a vote today. We wanted to present them and make sure that there was ample time for council members to be briefed on them, to digest them, and I'll walk through a little bit of what the changes are today. But wanted to make that clear that we'll be making a motion to hold 1 week. So I'll just say a few words right now about each of the bills, and so you get a sense of what the changes are. You know, we've listened to a lot of different people over the last several months and a lot of different opinions and voices, and responded to what we think the law allows us to do relative to the use of firearms in the city. You know, it's important to act, but it's important to act responsibly. And so we, in 2018, 12-18, have made some changes, essentially creating a new article in city code to address weapons, Article 11, and repealing the existing ordinances on firearms, replacing them with new enforceable provisions. So the main parts of this bill are, it does provide for a prohibition on the possession and ownership of assault weapons, but that's upon authorization under state law. So the effective date would be upon passage of state law or action at the Supreme Court. What it does do, a new section is forbidding the use of assault weapons in public places, something that state law does not prevent cities from doing. Use is not covered in the prohibition on the state level. And it also calls on the General Assembly to give Pittsburgh and other municipalities the power to outlaw possession and ownership of assault weapons. So we're petitioning the state to take action when they haven't. So that's 12-18. 12-19, again, prohibits the use, and use is defined in here, the use of armor-piercing ammunition, large capacity magazines, and rapid-fire devices. Again, we believe that while possession and ownership is not allowed to be regulated at the city level, use has not been covered, and that's nothing that's ever been challenged at the state level or in the courts. 12-19 also prohibits the ownership of possession of large capacity magazines, but again, tied to state action on that. And then 12-20, there are significant changes. So over the course of the last few months, one thing that we became aware of was that the risks to children are extreme when it comes to firearms in the home. You know, guns in homes pose a clear risk to the safety of children, and when those guns are not stored safely or securely, the risk only increases. So this bill now includes a provision regarding the prevention of extreme risk to children and holds gun owners accountable for the use of firearms by children when they fail to take simple and yet important measures to prevent guns from falling into young hands. It does not impose penalties on gun owners who safely store their firearms in locked boxes or safes and secures them properly. So that's one section. Another section of 12-20 is the extreme risk protection order, which was in the bill originally. 22,000 Americans every year, including over 1,000 children and teens, die by firearm suicide. And so the extreme risk protection order empowers families and household members and law enforcement officers to go to court to temporarily remove a person's access to firearms before they commit violence or attempt suicide. So that's just a brief overview, but like I said, there are many different resources available to council members to elaborate on all of that, including Councilman O'Connor and I, the outside legal counsel that we've been working with, and I know the law department will be setting up individual briefings with each of the council members over the next week or so, coordinating with Council President Kraus. So I just want to thank, again, Councilman O'Connor and Matt Singer in particular from his office for doing so much work on this, and I'll leave it at that.
So we need a motion to
So
amend.
motion to amend.
Second.
And so the motion amendment is covering all three bills and these three amendments. And we're on the conversation now on the amendments, starting with Councilwoman Smith, followed by President Kraus.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to abstain today, and I will wait to hear from the law department. Eager to hear what they have to say, although we've heard from the DA, and I'd like to also hear from him that your amendments have now given us the ability to vote on these bills. But it's my understanding that the consent decree says that we cannot vote on any types of bills, whether they're amended or not. And regardless, it still does not cover my major concerns, some of my major concerns, aside from the legalities on voting on these bills. But it does not cover the fact that we are not banning the guns that kill the African American mostly in the African American communities. We're banning the guns that most African Americans and Latino communities folks are actually arrested carrying. So I feel like it's more harming the people that are shot every day in this city. And so for me, I think that there's not going to be a bill that addresses that. I think that, and you can't legislate every action that needs to take place for us to. Sometimes it's just doing a little bit more in education and resources than it is legislating and creating laws. For me, I'll just say that I'm going to abstain today, but I will wait to have further conversation.
President Cross.
Just briefly, it's having a chance to review these amendments. It's clear the amount of work that has gone into them and the efforts that have gone into them. I'm proud to have my name associated with them, and not only will I support the amendments, but I'll advocate strongly for the passage of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Harris.
Again, I don't like guns. I never did. Don't have any. And I sure don't like it when people utilize them on a street, in a church, in a synagogue, anywhere. However, I think this would be great if the state passed everything. But we as council members don't have the right. I did vote on what was that before the something lost and stolen guns. And I also felt that if something wasn't in someone's hands, then it was up for to actually get it out of their hands. But the more I talk to the DA and the more I talk to people at the state and the Senate level, is they're the only ones that can have any laws. Now, I don't know how you go and tell people what to do in their own private home. I think everyone that has a gun, it should be not only have the little lock on it, but it should be stored in one of those steel places where a child can't get the key, and somewhere up high in a cupboard or something. So I agree something has to be done, but you have to ask the parents to do this. We cannot tell them what to do, because we have no rights over guns or ammunition, according to the state law. Only the General Assembly can pass something, or the federal government, which leads to when we ended up having decriminalization of marijuana. And again, right after that was passed, and it's a state law, there was, and it was passed by this council. When it went over to the court said, hey, only the state can pass the law. So right now, we have a state representative, and the kid that ended up going over there got more than a $25 fine, and it was put on his record. Now we have a state rep that has a law up at the state level, And if that's passed, there will be decriminalization of marijuana. But that's not in this room to be passed. Anything doing with marijuana, other than the medical marijuana, well, not even other, because the state speaks on all of those issues. Just like the county speaks on elections that was passed by this council. We don't have an election bureau. And that's the counties. So we cannot get into the school board, into the state, or the federal government's hands. And I'll be abstaining on this today, too. But it's not that I'm happy with guns. I don't own a gun, and I don't like guns. Thank you.
Okay.
Or bow and arrows. When they're trying to kill the deer on the hillside.
Okay, we're done.
On
That's a wrap, Harris, that's a wrap.
How about knives? Mr. Coghill.
Yes. So first, I had a great deal of respect for Councilman O'Connor before, he took this stance, and you too, Erica. I don't know you as well as I do Corey. But I'll say this, you've been steadfast in it. I know you've taken a lot of heat. I've been next to you many times, so yeah, I want to congratulate you on that. And I think what Corey said at one of these, when Sam DeMarco and the rest of the gang was here, to me resonates, okay? They were going back and forth, and they said, well, you can't enforce this law, so why are you doing it? And, Corey, you said, well, you're here at the table, aren't you? And to me, it's about bringing awareness to it. It really is. And we've certainly brought a lot of attention to this, I think in a good way, because if we don't, the state seems to be in a quagmire. They're not going anywhere with it, doesn't seem to me. So I really do applaud your efforts to every degree as to what you've done. I'm not so sure that I could, stay on the bills when push comes to shove, okay? Next week or whenever it is, or all of the bills, just kind of sorting it out. I did have a scenario I wanted to throw at you in reading over the amendments, okay? One of the amendments said, if a minor grabs a handgun that I may have under lock and key to protect herself or himself, say I'm not home. I'm just painting a scenario for you. If I'm not home, my child grabs a gun because somebody's breaking in, okay? In that break-in, she feels like it's self-defense, okay? She goes on and shoots the invader or the intruder. Then intruder happens to be a neighbor trying to come in, enter my home, and tell me something. Therefore, it was kind of accidental. So I'm just wondering, I guess, so am I going to be responsible for my child shooting my neighbor by accident? No?
If it's locked responsibly,
Right.
then you are not responsible for.
Right.
You're not held to the standard that's set in the law.
Right. But if it's under my bed,
That's a question.
which I don't have.
That's a
but-
good question.
It's a
We
state
should
law, you
explore
won't be
that over
held
the next
responsible
week.
anyway.
Okay. So now I look forward, at the very least, the attention you both brought to this is phenomenal. Somebody needs to kick the state in the rear end, and I'll be the first one on the bus to Harrisburg for you. I absolutely believe in gun control for anybody who, doesn't see that. And it seems like the people we had at this table that were against it, they don't seem to be budging. They want to go by the Constitution and everything else. Well, I firmly believe that if the makers of this Constitution were here today, they'd say, "Are you out of your mind putting these type of weapons on the streets?" I give them a lot more credit than they do, because I think they were smarter than that. So with that, I guess we'll discuss this further next week. But I just wanted to thank you both for your efforts. Yeah.
Before we start the second round, anyone else on the first round? So I will say a couple things briefly, and then we'll start second round. First of all, I want to start where what I've been trying to say, and hopefully will continue to say, is where we all agree on. I believe as a council, both as a whole and individually, we are against all sorts of gun violence and gun-related violence that ends with homicides, suicides, domestic violence, and mass shootings. All of those events that end in death are horrific. All of them we are against. When I first came on council, when lost and stolen handguns came, I made the argument that Ms. Harris and Ms. Smith were making. I knew that we were prohibited. I made that argument. I was right in terms of the law, but I was wrong in terms of the policy. There are times when your vote is not a vote of law, it's a vote of conscience. And so, although I have sympathy to your position, because I've had that position before, I've said it, argued it, was right, proven right, but being right on the law sometimes does not make you right on the topic. Our country has had lots of laws that were wrong. The court, over the years, has had to, that's why the Supreme Court makes new precedent. There are times when it has to change. For me, and I said this to Erica and Corey, first of all, I appreciate them and their power and their strength and courage, but I told them from the beginning I would be with them, and I'm with them because I think it's right. I think there's times you have to stand up and say enough is enough, and then the courts will do whatever the courts do. The second thing I will say is this. Not only should we do these things on a global level, that is, that we should condemn gun violence in our city on all those fronts, then I hope that we have the same energy to deal every day with the population that is most affected by gun violence. It would be a shame for us to have all this energy and it to be temporal. And when this fades from memory, this mass shooting fades from memory, then this energy and attention to gun violence goes away. Every day, African American kids are getting shot, either in this city or in this country. And for the most part, that is silence. It's silence on the national level, it's silenced on the state level, it's silence in the city level. We are nationally making a national emergency for a problem of people coming over the southern border that doesn't exist. And these kids are getting shot every day. And for the most part, we say nothing. For the most part, large amounts of money does not come to solve the problem that we know how to solve. I just hope, and I stand with Corey and Erica, and I stand with my friends. I have done that publicly and privately. But I also am asking humbly that you stand with me every day, because almost every day in the city of Pittsburgh, one of these kids are shot, and most of them in the district I represent. I ask that you stand with me too, that we solve this problem holistically, that all gun violence, whether it be homicide, suicide, domestic violence, mass shootings, all of them are equal, because all these people are equal in the sight of God. They are all equal in importance to our city and to our council, and we're going to, each victim, each opportunity we're going to take to make this different. And I'm sorry, that's my real belief, that's what I think, and I hope that we can agree to all work together to reduce gun violence every day in the city of Pittsburgh, not just when there is one horrific incident, because this problem is every day, not just seasonal. I will decrease, starting with second round with Councilwoman Smith, then Harris, then Strasburg, and Ms. Smith.
Well, thank you, Reverend, for your comments. And I think I have stood with you many times in trying to find solutions. And Councilwoman Harris and I have voted in the past on gun bills. It's not that we don't want to vote on things. We know the result. We get sued, no result. We give people false pretense and false hope that we're going to do something, that something's going to change this time. And all it really is in my personal opinion, is just a political statement. It's not really yielding results for people every day. And when you see the shootings that are happening every single day, as I said, in this community, and then we have, to me, the audacity to ban the guns that disproportionately, the arrests disproportionately affect the African American communities. So disproportionately, they will be arrested by this law if they were ever enforced. But yet at the same time, we are not banning the guns in which they are shot by, and disproportionately we are not. And so, I mean, you can say and bring in experts and have, really great people working on these bills. The facts are the facts, and if you're not getting them from the Department of Justice or someplace where they really are documented, they're just facts misconstrued in data which can be construed to say whatever you want it to say. But the fact of the matter is I have worked in a lot of the communities where I do see kids shot. I worked at Langley. I worked for Pittsburgh Public Schools. I worked across the city. And I cannot tell you how many kids I have seen and how many families I've seen suffering and so many people shot. And yet we're not addressing that. And I get that this was different. This was a tragedy in a place of worship, and everybody should feel safe in their place of worship, but they should also feel safe in their communities every single day. And we're not seeing that. And we do, while we're seeing some decrease in gun violence in the country, and we're seeing some of that in our city, one is too many. Just even one person shot, one family suffering for needless violence, for a needless death. Is just too much, and I think that the responses are very different from what we see every day into what happened here, and I get why, because it is a place of worship and a place where you should feel safe, and no matter what type of place of worship, it would not be okay. But at the same time, I think kids should feel safe every day, and I think we've let them down. I think that I would love to do if you want to make a statement and you want to. And a lot of times people have made changes, but they've been people on the local level. They've not used public dollars to make statements. They've not been elected officials that made significant change. Those things were led by real people every day in the community, not by elected officials. So, I mean, there are many significant changes that happened, but they weren't led by politicians. They were led by everyday people. That's who changes the country. That's who makes real significant differences. We could have simply done this with the will of council without causing any public dollars, without putting the city in any kind of position. And we could have taken the trip to Harrisburg that we said we were going to take back when we passed the lost and stolen gun piece. We said we were going to go to Harrisburg then. We said we were going to go to Harrisburg for the many other times that we said we were going to go to Harrisburg, and we have yet to go to Harrisburg. I've been here 10 years. There's not even been one effort to organize a trip to Harrisburg for us to work collectively on issues that we say we care about. So I think if we really cared, we could have maybe done this a long time ago before the shooting, the tragedy that happened in Squirrel Hill. And I mean, I don't know that anything can prevent any of this kind of stuff, because I think if you have a propensity to kill, you have a propensity to kill. And I mean, I don't know what makes people do those things and what makes people hate. And I don't understand. I don't understand it, but I just know that on our end, we need to do more than just throw legislation on the table that's going to end us in a lawsuit, make some statements, and then go away and not be enforced. That we need real significant efforts on our part. And I know that the intention was well-meaning, and I think that my colleagues were hurting at the time when they put a lot of this in and were trying to respond to a lot of pain that they had and their constituents felt. But I want to say that there are people that are hurting every day in the city, and they also deserve a response. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you very much, Ms.
I'll save
Harris.
my comments for when we actually finally vote.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Harris.
Yeah, I exactly wanted to say the same thing about giving false hope out there. We'll have people believing that these laws can be utilized when they can't. I would have no problem taking everything that was written by the council members that put this in and turn it into a resolution asking the state to vote on these issues. But they're not ours. When we voted, or when we came into office and raised our right hand, it was to also obey the constitutions of the United States and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And this is one of those times when, again, another law that will just sit on the books and bring a bunch of lawsuits to the city, as happened in 1993 when they brought this to the table. The sad part of this is that the people that are getting the guns, that are shooting people, are still going to get the guns. We're still going to have shootings, and it's very sad because we need more mental health facilities. Those are the types of things that we really need to bring to the forefront. I don't think if you're, well, maybe in a domestic and things get heated or something like that, but, and it could happen with someone that doesn't have a mental health issue, but you would have to have a mental health issue to utilize guns in a manner that was used in the synagogue or on the streets of Homewood or in my district. But if the council members put this on a resolution and asked Harrisburg to vote on it, and then we leave it up to the state, I could vote on asking the state to look at these three laws that are being put in. But I don't want to give anyone any false hope, like we did on a number of other issues, and it cost the city thousands and thousands of dollars in lawsuits, which we shouldn't even be in. Like I said, I don't like guns. You know, I don't have a gun. I don't have a gun in my house. And I wish there was something that we could do. But the only thing we can do is ask Harrisburg. And yes, we did go to Harrisburg once. But I have no problem taking a trip up to Harrisburg and saying, here's resolutions or past resolutions asking the state to deal with a matter which is theirs to vote on. Thank you.
Strasburg.
Thank you. Wow, I have a lot to say.
I might have a response.
I'll start with this. Regarding Councilwoman Cale Smith's comments, I agree, we can't only legislate our way out of this. It can't just be these three pieces of legislation and that's it. I have no intention of, working to pass this and washing my hands of the issue. This is going to be a career-long issue for me. And it's not just about these pieces of legislation. I agree that there need to be voluntary measures. I agree that there needs to be, well, that's also why, I'm fully supportive of Reverend Burgess's, and with your support and Councilman Lavelle's support, the Stop of the Violence Initiative bill, which is also being held and will be voted on the same time as these three bills. We also need to address public health, mental health. We also need to address, kind of the voluntary things that we can do in neighborhoods. And I just want to say to you and to Reverend Burgess and to all council members, I stand with you. I want to be there for you into the future. It's not just about, the events in Squirrel Hill. It's about everyday proximity-related violence, neighborhood violence. And I know for a fact, because I've talked to many, many constituents and heard from them, there's a complicated relationship with the events that happen in Squirrel Hill and neighborhood violence. And they want to be there for you too, however they can. So let's figure out how to do that and to make sure that residents of Squirrel Hill and residents of Shady Side and residents in my district can be there to support and to eradicate violence and to get to the root causes of the violence as well. It's complicated, but it's not just about these three bills. It's a longer term issue that we need to focus on, that I'm ready to fight with you and alongside of you on. This is not a political stunt. We really have been working hard. We've gotten legal advice and believe that there is a path forward in the courts. And I don't want to give false hope either, but if we can be successful in even a portion of these moving forward and making its way up through the court system, that will empower other municipalities to try the same thing. Then we really have a set of municipalities who can go to Harrisburg together, not just passing our own pieces of legislation, but banding together to lobby Harrisburg to take further action. One particular bill that is moving in Harrisburg is the Extreme Risk Protection Order, introduced by 2 Republicans in the Senate and the House. That, I don't want to say it's necessarily going to pass this year, but there's a stronger chance of that type of thing passing than anything else in Harrisburg right now. So that's an opportunity, but I say let's not just keep it to Harrisburg. We have Pittsburgh, we have Philadelphia support, and we have support from cities all across the state. If we can galvanize it and plan a lobby day together with all of them, that would be much stronger than just us going. So maybe midsummer when I'm back, we can pull that together. And then I also wanted to just say that, just reiterate, we do see a path forward with this legislation. A legal path forward. We think that we've responded in a way that actually allows us to do what we're doing. And it's not over with these 3 pieces of legislation. I'm ready to stand with anyone here on council to really address gun violence, again, for my entire career. So please, let's talk and let's figure something out.
Lavelle.
Thank you. Councilwoman Strasburger just sort of hit on the point that I wanted to mention, which was to Councilwoman Smith's concern that we weren't doing anything to address all those throughout our city that are impacted in violence, which is absolutely not the case. We held the bill for 1 week so that we could pass this all as a package, but the Stop the Violence initiative is actually designed to do just that. There is a reason, although one gunshot is too many, one death lost is too many, but there is absolutely a reason why this city is experiencing a 12-year low in terms of our homicide rates due to guns, and that is because of the Stop the Violence initiative, and that is because of the work that we've been doing with the Building National Trust initiative, with the Group Violence Intervention initiative, with ShotSpotter, all the things that Reverend Burgess and others have been working on over the years. This absolutely goes to impact that. So I don't see it as this one piece is being done in isolation. That's one. 2, I think me and Councilwoman Harris have a fundamental disagreement about what giving hope to people is. I think you do not provide hope when elected officials, when government sort of sits by and is unwilling to challenge unjust laws, is unwilling to do all that they can to challenge the status quo. I think you actually give hope to communities when you're willing to say, yes, we'll take your tax dollars and we will fight on your behalf because we believe in this that much. So I think we also have sort of a fundamental disagreement there on how that operates. Lastly, I want to thank Councilwoman Strasburger and Councilman O'Connor. I have not read the amendments in detail yet because I knew we were going to be holding it for 1 week. But it is my understanding that based on the amendments that they've worked on, they've provided a legal path forward. And so I want to thank them for that path forward. And I will certainly read the language in detail and be able to speak on it more articulately next week. And then lastly, to Councilwoman Smith, at the end of the day, if we pass this, and if handguns are the concern, I'll be willing to put my name on the bill with you after we go this route, and let's go ban the handguns too. I'm willing to take that next step and have that fight as well, if that's where we want to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman, anybody else second round before we start third round? No one second round. Councilwoman Smith, third round.
So I would be happy to organize a trip to Harrisburg to talk to the appropriate people to handle these things. And I'd be happy if you want to put a bill together, let's work on it, Councilman Lavelle. But it would be the same thing as what we're having now. No effect and no enforcement, and we have absolutely no authority, and again, against the law. So it would be the same thing as these bills. But I will say, I have worked with you on the Stop the Violence thing initiatives. I have been very supportive on all the initiatives we've done in terms of trying to make sure that we're doing all we can to stop the shootings in the community. And yes, they have gone down. I don't know if it's as a result to the Stop the Violence, or if it's also, if there's any correlation between the decline in residency, whether there's less people living in the city of Pittsburgh. Because a lot of people see this as not a place of opportunity for a lot of families. So I don't know what the real reasons are. I'd love to delve into that a little bit further and see what the real reasons are, because I also have my own theory that, if we can keep kids from early in the morning to late at night if we're not engaging the families at home and parents and guardians. We're sending kids home a lot of times in the summer, sometimes in very sad, dysfunctional situations. And so I think that, and if we're not doing something to include the folks that they're living with, then we're not really helping kids at all. So, I mean, I think that we need to do more in that area too. So I think that there's a lot to be said. You can spin this any way you want. You can say whatever you want. But for me, I will have a lot more to say next week, and I'll bring some statistics to the table as well. Thank you.
Any other conversation? Councilwoman Harris.
Yeah. The easiest way for us to put a trip together for Harrisburg is to get our lobbyists, and maybe that's what we should do, go over and visit them or have them come over here.
We have lobbyists.
We do have a lobbyist, yeah. So he had initiated a lot of trips when I was on school board. We used him, and he's with us here to go to Harrisburg. And we could send up a resolution and get them ready for it with, here's how we feel, but it's your job to vote on the bills, not ours.
All my notes.
But it is passing another piece of legislation that just gives false hope. And I've been trying to do things. I brought ShotSpotter to the city of Pittsburgh. I put extra cameras. I gave them money to put extra cameras on ShotSpotter in my district. But it's going to go on, and Harrisburg could pass these. And we're still going to have people running around with guns, shooting up things, because of getting the lost and stolen guns. And the courts have to deal with this and maybe have stronger measures for people that are utilizing the guns. Maybe they need to go to adult jail instead of treating them as a juvenile when it comes to guns. And the same with drugs. I mean, I think the courts need to be stronger on drugs. So, and if you know there's guns in houses for children to get their hands on, then call CYF. That's their job. You're getting into the Connie's work now. So, I'll be happy to sit down and get the lobbyist over here so we can go over to Harrisburg.
Let's do it.
Thank you very much. We have a motion for the amendments first. There's a motion to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. All three are
Abstain.
amended.
Abstain.
2 abstentions. All right, so we have amended the bill. We are now on the original bills. Is there a motion to hold?
Sorry.
Is there more conversation or not? I thought you were holding.
No, hold, yeah.
Is there a motion to hold?
Motion to hold 1 week.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. Those 3 bills.
Abstain.
Two abstentions on the hold. That exhausts the the Public Safety Committee. It takes us to the Public Works Committee, of which Ms. Cal Smith is the chair. We have a new paper.
Bill number 1475, resolution providing for an agreement to set forth city financial obligations and responsibilities with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for the inclusion of certain city components in PennDOT's West Carson Street Signal Upgrade Project at a city cost not to exceed $9,050.
Need a motion, Ms. Smith.
Motion to approve?
Need a second. Any conversation?
Do you have any?
No, thank
See no conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Next bill, please.
Bill number 1476, resolution accepting the dedication of a portion of Blair Street and Hazelwood Avenue in the SP10 Hazelwood Green Specially Planned District in the 4th and 15th Wards, 5th Council District.
Need a motion, Mr. Smith.
Motion to approve with
Need a
discussion?
Second.
And I'll defer to Councilman O'Connor because he has some
Mr.
concerns.
O'Connor.
Yes, thank you. There is a amendment in front of you. This is accepting the new streets at Hazelwood Green that Councilman Kraus actually splits about 15 feet of, so I want to give him credit. But I would like to make a motion to amend.
Need a second. Second motion to amend. Any conversation on motion to amend? Ms. Harris on the motion to amend?
No, I'll wait.
No conversation on motion to amend. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Now we're back on the original bill. Mr. Kraus, that takes you back to you, or Mr. O'Connor. You're good. Mrs. Harris.
I just had a question. Do you have a list of the names?
The street names, no, this is to accept the initial road, which is Signature Boulevard, but we have to accept it. That's all we're doing is accepting it.
So,
We're not
okay.
renaming all the streets yet.
Okay.
We're too far from that, yeah.
Okay.
Any other conversation? No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. That takes us to the last committee of the day, Human Resources Committee. Mrs. Harris is the chair. We have a new paper.
Bill number 1474, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Human Resources and Civil Service to enter into a professional services agreement and/or contracts with NeoGov for the upgrade and continual maintenance of software for HR workforce management, applicant tracking, and civil service testing, and providing for a payment not to exceed $81,096.77.
Need a motion, Ms. Harris.
Motion to approve.
Need a second.
Discussion.
Ms. Harris.
Yes. I believe that our request and my request was to talk to all of the unions, and I think every union was talked to except for the FOP. Is this the one? No? Come on up.
Harris has the floor. Here comes the HR director.
Is it?
Morning, Director.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning. I thought this was that one. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, Janet Manuel, Director of Human Resources and Civil Service. So this respective legislation is asking approval of City Council to approve the amount of monies not to exceed as stated. NeoGov is our applicant tracking system. This is a system that is utilized by all internal and external candidates to apply for job openings within the city. We also utilize it for our civil service testing, which is the clerical testing. So upon City Council's approval, we will be able to continue to utilize this mechanism so all applicants, internal and external, will be able to have the fortunate ability to apply for career opportunities with the city of Pittsburgh.
We've been dealing with a lot of different pieces of legislation. So, okay.
No conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
direction. I do have one announcement this afternoon at 1:30 p.m. Council will hold a cablecast public hearing on Bill 2019-1371 as it relates to an historic designation for the Carrick Municipal Hall. Any other conversation from members? Seeing no more conversation, we need a motion to excuse the absent member, approve the minutes, and adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Need a second? Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. We are adjourned.